The real fight against racism lies in empowering individuals to take accountability, pursue wisdom, learn valuable skills, start
She does this every time.
businesses, and become indispensable assets.
She does this every time. She goes, there's no systemic problems. Instead, we should focus on all of these things that right now are lacking due to systemic problems. So we have not talked about the cancerous tumor growing on the platform known as YouTube. Gothix. We haven't talked about her in quite a while. In fact, I'd forgotten about her. But I found a video that she made. She published it 1 month ago. She's not publishing that often right now. And it's called Dear White Saviors. And we'll just see what she has to say.
Dear white saviors, I think the most repulsive trend that I've experienced as a woman who happens to be black is the endless coddling and victimization.
Hey guys, did you know that Gothix is black? In case anybody watching is either colorblind or maybe just blind, Gothix is black.
Is the endless coddling and victimization from people like you. And by the way, I don't mean all white people. I'm speaking directly to the folks who think treating blacks like babies or making excuses for them is somehow gonna change the world for the better. White say.
Okay, so we're gonna let her talk, don't worry, but see, this is the problem, is people like me get labeled a white savior for talking about issues like systemic racism, maybe. I'll say things all the time like, not every black person is poor, of course. Black people can be successful in this country, duh. But it is a statistical reality that because of historical policies, black people do disproportionately have less financial security as compared to the average white person. That is true, on average. This doesn't mean all white people and all black people. This is the average. But these averages are relevant because they show the effects of historical racist policies like redlining, which I talk about quite frequently. So this is the problem, is there is such a thing as the white savior. The black people can do no wrong because they're oppressed and they're always a victim of the system, blah, blah, blah. No, I think everybody should try and work the hardest they can to make the best of their life within their own abilities, of course. But when white liberals try to talk about some of the disproportionate disadvantages that black people face, we get labeled white saviors for making excuses. No one's making excuses. This is called an explanation.
White saviorism is a phenomenon that convinced agreeable people that they're somehow responsible for fighting injustice and dismantling barriers of systemic oppression because of—
What did I just tell you? There it is, right? Remember when I talked to Gothix and I brought up that study about how if you have a black sounding name, you're less likely to get a callback on your job resume? That's literally just facing a disadvantage because your name sounds like a black sounding name. And remember what Gothix's response was. Well, how bad do you want the job? Probably not bad enough to go down to the courthouse and change my name to John Smith.
This idea has been driven by misguided notions of social justice, which create false representations of black people being weak, incapable, and in need of protection from the white supremacy boogeyman.
It's not in need of protection from any white supremacy boogeyman or anything of the sort. It's that there are, again, systems at play that are sometimes even still being propped up in a way that is unintentional. This is why I bring up the criminal justice system, for example. The criminal justice system, I don't think is like intentionally racist. Obviously, I don't think everybody in the criminal justice system is racist, but we still see that black people are disproportionately given death sentences or longer, harsher sentences compared to white people who are in very similar situations with similar criminal backgrounds. So there's another disadvantage that black people are facing. This isn't because of the white supremacy boogeyman or anything of the sort. This is because of certain subconscious biases. And by simply talking about the issue and acknowledging that, we can start to undo some of these systemic issues. It's not that hard. This doesn't mean all black or all white people are racist or all white people are bad, because you know what? Black people are involved in the criminal justice system too. It's a system problem. The way the system operates disproportionately negatively affects people of color, whether you have all white people running that system or all black people running that system.
I am not diminishing the hardships that some people might face. In actuality, I acknowledge that the world is hard. I acknowledge that it can be unfair, unjust, unkind, and unpredictable.
Of course, it's very unfair. I mean, me and you exist in the same reality. Clearly, there is no God.
What I am not convinced by is this idea that my skin color somehow predestines me to a life of misery and poverty unless I enlist the help of the anointed
Trust me, your skin color does not destine you for a life of misery and poverty, but your smug attitude absolutely does, Gothix, okay?
pseudo-intellectual. Racism isn't a problem for me. In fact, color is completely irrelevant in my eyes because it's not like I'm being subjected to anything new. If the world doesn't hate you for what you look like, they're gonna hate you for what you believe, what you stand for, what you do, and what you
What? So maybe some people like me who have more than one brain cell care why people hate you, okay? Listen, I say all the time, if people hate me for something that I genuinely said or genuinely believe, fine, hate me. Go for it, okay? I don't care. You're not scary to me. But if somebody hates me based on a lie, or based on some false notion, or if somebody hates me because I'm white, well, there's a difference there. But if you hate somebody for something they believe, or if you hate their beliefs, well, that's sometimes a valid thing to hate about somebody. She's literally just like, well, cause you'll experience hate for some reasons, then it's okay that some people hate you for your skin color.
Prejudice comes in many forms, so let's stop pretending that one is worse than the other. The real fight against racism lies in empowering individuals to take accountability, pursue wisdom, learn valuable skills, start
She does this every time.
businesses, and become indispensable assets.
She does this every time. She goes, there's no systemic problems. Instead, we should focus on all of these things that right now are lacking due to systemic problems. I know, Gothix, it's great for you to just deny reality and then just daydream about this fantasy, whimsical land in which all of a sudden everybody can just pull themselves up by the bootstraps again and nobody is ever victimized by the systems at play. Nope, everybody's just an individual living in their own world of existence, you know? Go out and start their own businesses. You need money to do that. So what if you don't have money? What if you're in an area that's disproportionately poor? What if you're in an area where you don't know anybody who can even give you money, like an investor, to help you? What if you have no financial stability? You talk about starting businesses. That's not a bad thing to do, of course. But if black people are disproportionately poor, then black people are going to disproportionately have a harder time starting businesses. So you can't just deny these systemic issues that are contributing to these disproportionate realities and then just daydream about how nice it would be if maybe everything was just perfect.
White people, I implore you to challenge the notion that you must atone for the sins of your ancestors. True progress comes from living in the present and treating each other as equals through genuine understanding for the individual and not a collective that demands your blood sacrifice for something that you're not even responsible for. Jesus already...
Oh God, before we hear her ramble on about Jesus, whatever the she's about to go on, no one's saying you need to give a blood sacrifice to anything, but it's okay to talk about groups as far as averages so long as you distinguish that that's not speaking for every single person. But you're so stupid, Gothix. This is why I say that you're like a subhuman. Like you're so if you just could take a step back for 5 seconds and actually assess what you're saying, white people don't owe black people anything. And we can understand the individual. I don't even think that we should be against that. Of course we should try to understand the individual, but an individual is still a product of the system. You can understand an individual, but it's going to be more valuable to have that systemic context along with trying to understand the individual. You're so 2D, you don't even know how to think through this all the way. You don't even realize that what you're arguing for, you're simultaneously arguing against.
Not a collective that demands your blood sacrifice for something that you're not even responsible for. Jesus already paid for that on the cross, so forgive me if I scoff at the idea that fallible humans are somehow gonna save the world when...
Wait, why did Jesus have to pay for that on the cross? Gothix, are you saying that God was going to punish all of us people for the sins of Adam and Eve? Oh no, wait, Gothix, are you saying that I'm going to be punished? Why was I sinful? I was never given a choice whether I could pick the apple off of the one special tree or not, okay? Why did I never get that choice? Someone else sinned, and then I was born to be punished? Because now I'm apparently just born sinful also? Why am I being punished for the sins of my forefathers, Gothix? You're over here raging about how white people are not responsible for the past. But apparently God thinks that I'm responsible for the sins of the past. Numbers 14 right here. The Lord is slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but he will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generations. Okay, cool. So that's really all we needed to know. So God was totally okay with punishing future generations for the sins of their fathers when it came to Adam and Eve and all of humanity, and when it comes to certain verses here in the Old Testament. To me, it sounds like God's contradicting himself, because sometimes he's saying he's not going to do that, and then other times he's saying he is. Regardless, she's over here raging about all this crap, about all this white people, the past, blah, blah, blah. She believes in a God that literally believes the exact same thing. She believes in a God who is so woke, so wokey, that he's going to punish the third and fourth generation of sons for something their fathers did. That's how woke your God is, Gothix.
When they still need a savior themselves. And no thank you, I can do all things through Christ, not our Father which art in Washington. I, like every other so-called disenfranchised person, has potential to succeed, assuming you actually let us thrive based on our abilities and our merit. It might be hard, there might be obstacles, and I am not saying it's wrong to ask for help if you actually need it. But with freedom comes a responsibility for our own lives and
What if you're not afforded the same type of freedom because someone else has, say, way more economic freedom than you do because of past problems that your father's fathers experienced, and now you don't have economic mobility? What's going to happen to your freedom? What happens if you're poor, if you have no money at all? Where's your freedom, Gothix? This is ridiculous, okay? You can't just be like, "'Cause we have freedom." No, you need to talk about why there are these certain issues at play and what is contributing to them. We are not going to see generations upon generations of disproportionate income inequality amongst racial groups since like redlining and before, because black people just aren't taking responsibility, or because the white people are just all saying that black people are victims. That's not why this is happening, Gothix. And until you acknowledge the systemic issues at play, then your only other belief is that black people might be capable, but I guess they're just really stupid, because they're really capable apparently, but for the last several generations, they're just not doing anything. Oh well, I guess just black people are disproportionately just lazy? Really? Is that the route you want to take? That's the only other option if there isn't some kind of a generational or systemic problem. She's so dumb.
Overcoming the challenges we face along the way.
Wow. For a 3-minute video. Ooh.